in there.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
We, come on guys. Good afternoon. Wake everybody up next door. Oh, that was awesome. Okay, so what we're going to look at today is visibility in our communities. Why? Why would we want to be visible in our communities? I mean, forever our lodges have been active. You know, we've done all kinds of things. Yeah, our membership's dwindling and so forth. Why do we want to be out in the community?
Positive exposure.
Positive exposure, there it is. Our communities have forgot who we are. My lodge is Fidalgo, 77 in Anacortes. When I became master, I walked the street of Anacortes, walked into each business and said, do you know where the Masonic building is? And I only had a couple businesses that said, God, isn't it that funny kind of rectangular 3-story building, kind of a block up off Commercial or something? It's got those funny symbols on the front of the most business people in Anacortes did not know where the Masonic Lodge was. Hey, there's a few other seats around here. Go ahead, just fill in.
No one here.
Couple more up here in the heckler's row.
You don't buy it.
That's not what I heard.
He made nibble. If you want to heckle, right up here is where you need to be so I can hear you.
But the business community didn't know who we were. And brothers, we're a business. We're no different than any business downtown that's selling a product. It's just that our product is different. It is philanthropy. There you go. Okay. And we're doing it for causes that we're passionate about. If you look at Masonry as a whole in North America, I had somebody figure it out here a while back. We donate with all of our groups close to $8 million a day.
Nice.
And all the things that we do with all of the concordant bodies, that's about what it comes to. Okay? It's a lot of money. A lot of money. So why shouldn't we be visible in the communities? Why shouldn't we be active and involved? So what are we going to do? If our lodge is sitting here, we don't do anything outside of our lodge. We don't do anything out in the community. We're not active in anything with chambers, with parades, with veterans organizations, with anything that's going on in town. We're just coming to our meetings. We're taking care of our business. We're doing our stuff for our lodge and our members, and we're going home. How do we get started? How do we create this visibility in our community? We started in by calling up the newspaper and saying, hey, we got this activity. Snap a picture, send a little article in. Guess what? When the newspaper needs a filler, they stick it in. Okay? If they don't need a filler, they don't put it in. It's not in that week. It's a weekly newspaper. But when they want it, they stick it in. You can advertise your lodge by just being visible. Your rings, your hats, your coats, your shirts, your whatever. Yeah. Have something on every time that you go to town, you go into a business that shows you're a Freemason. It's surprising how many people ask. And as our lodge started getting more and more involved in the community, I would walk into a store and they go, Oh, you're a Mason. Yeah, I know where the building is. Yeah. Do your activities. Create your photos of your activities. Put them in your trestle board. Put it on your website. When business people or anybody in the community asks you, direct them to your website. For the young men that are in here that are using these devices all the time, they're searching. They're on it. They're looking at it. They want to know. Okay? So advertise it. Chamber of Commerce. Almost every city in town has a Chamber of Commerce. Went down, cost $100 to join. That's the best $100 we spent. We joined. We had one member that started attending the chamber meetings, still does, Eric.
Eric still does this.
Yeah.
Was that a fee paid for by the lodge that you voted on?
No, I paid it myself.
Okay.
Is that individual per person that wants to attend the meetings, or is that?
No, that was for the organization.
So the lodge itself would
But
be
I-
an
Yearly thing?
Huh?
A yearly thing,
Yeah.
$100 a year?
Right.
annual membership fee to the
Annual.
Chamber of
The
Commerce.
lodge could pay
And
that.
I don't know if the lodge pays for it now or,
Vote on it.
So that's something that the lodge
We
will,
pay for it now.
okay.
so the lodge will vote on it and pay for it themselves to be
Yeah,
involved.
but I didn't know how it was gonna turn out,
Sure, you just
and
went
so
for it.
I wanted to find out. I
Mhm.
was willing to put the $100 out to experiment and see what happened.
Don's rich anyway.
Yeah, I know. I just brought another cow into town and that, you know. So I joined. We started going to the meetings. As they would, as business people, talk about the events, the sales, the activities that were taking place in Anacortes. They'd go around the table and it'd come to our member of the lodge that was sitting there. And he'd start telling them about the things that we do. Okay? The largest contributor of money for research on diabetes, Amaranth. Okay? Shrine hospitals. Each time he was at a meeting, he talked about something different. Here's an activity that's taking place. Wasn't in Anacortes necessarily. Here's an activity that's taking place. He introduced the chamber to what Freemasonry was doing. And that started leading into what we as a lodge started doing. 4th of July. Okay, we got a big 4th of July parade that takes place in Anacortes. Nothing big. We used to come with our suits on and put our regalia, and 4th of July in the middle of a heat wave, we're walking, you know, down the street with our apron, yeah, everything. And everybody just kind of, you know, on the sidelines, you know. Nobody paid attention to us. So I put a committee together. And I said, what I want is 3 couples, men and your wives. And I want you to meet. I want you to come up with ideas. My wife and I was one of them. And we had 2 other couples. One real young, one a little bit older, and me, the old guy. And we started talking. You know, we'd have a dinner at one of the houses, have a couple drinks, sit around and BS about what can we do to be visible. From that, we came up with several ideas. So it wasn't me as the master that came up. We plotted with the help of the women to come up. And guess what? It was one of the wives that came up with this first one, the 4th of July parade, to dress as famous Masons. Okay? The first year we had 12. We dressed up. So, I mean, there's thousands of famous Masons out there, and each of us just picked somebody we wanted to be. Some rented a costume, some made up their own costumes and so forth. We made up signs. We are Freemasons. This is who we are. We walked in the parade. And guess what? We were the hit of the parade.
Nice.
The people hooped and hollered and yelled and clapped, and we had people coming out in the streets and shaking our hands.
Wow.
Okay? Neatest thing I ever been involved with. My senior warden at that time was a retired Air Force, and he was Robert Burns. And you know, he says, I can get a bagpipe. And I'm thinking, yeah, right. He'll hit a CD, and he played the real thing. He was phenomenal. And we were the hit. People stopped the lodge as we went back to the lodge, started changing our clothes, thanking us for what we did. Visibility. Second year we had over 20 people. Some members that couldn't ride, we had them on a wagon with chairs that we had bound down. And they were riding, holding their signs so everybody could see. It was great, the visibility. Did the same thing for the Christmas parade. It's not a real big parade, it's not real warm, you know, that first weekend in December. But we had a Santa Claus, and we had elf hats, and we had a trailer, and we had boxes decorated up as gift boxes, and we handed out candy, and we bowled it, and I think that's the first time I ever met Jason.
Do you have a picture of him in an elf hat? No. Text it to me.
No, we destroyed. But again, visibility. There weren't a lot of participants in the parade, but it was quick, it was fast. There were a lot of people that came out of the stores and took a look. People that were standing on the sidewalks that were watching this parade, because it's gone on forever in Anacortes. Okay. We had a Veterans Day event that took place. The Boy Scouts would do remembrance at a local park. That park was property donated by a family that their son died in World War I. And there were 9 brothers from Anacortes that were non-Masons, 9 men that died in World War I from Anacortes. And so their plaques are on this gazebo, this rock gazebo they put up. And so the Boy Scouts would come and people would join in, and you know, there'd be some prayers, speeches by the mayor and different things, but there really wasn't a whole lot of things, activity that went on. And it died. The Boy Scouts quit doing it. So we picked it up. And we said, why don't we lay a wreath? Now you see on TV the president carries the wreath up and sets it. Same thing. First year didn't track a whole lot. Second year we tracked quite a bit more. But we started doing it. We started celebrating. One of the other things that, and now the Port District puts on a big affair. So this thing has really grown from what we started. But we get acknowledgement every time, and we start it off. We kick it off. Memorial Day. We had our lodge done what's called an empty chair ceremony. Does everybody know what that is?
Yeah.
And it was a lodge event where you carry that empty black draped chair around the lodge, and you set it down, and the brothers pay remembrance for those brothers that have died in time of conflict in the service. And so we always talked about it to other lodges, but we never invited the public in. And so we opened the lodge, we went off session, we planned this event, we did a flag ceremony, at the beginning, at noon. We invited the people in for some soup and some sandwiches, and we invited the public upstairs to the lodge room. We did the empty chair ceremony. And we almost had all of the chairs in the lodge filled. And there was only a scattering of Masons. It was all public. They were watching what we did in our celebration. Just all kinds of things that you can do to get yourself out in front of the community. We've had people come and want to join the lodge from that vision, visibility that we're portraying. Okay, so how many of you celebrate, hold a dinner and make an awards presentation to that special law enforcement, or that special fireman in your town, your city? Okay, there's a few. It's easy to do. You have this contest. You ask either the chief of police or the fire chief, or names of those men, women, that have gone above and beyond. It's real simple. You just take a look through, judge them, pick the one that's going to be the winner, and you go ahead and have this dinner and invite the public in and let the mayor give a speech, county commissioner, whatever. It's a big deal. You take them upstairs, you present them with this award in your lodge room. Everybody gets to see it. You got a question?
Just an annual event there?
Annual event.
Sure.
So we don't do it.
No, it's just a great idea though.
Yeah, it's a great
No,
idea.
that is.
You can do it for a lot of other things too. It doesn't have to be just for law
Right,
enforcement.
citizen of the year.
You can celebrate a business that's
Yes,
come in and
yes.
is donating a lot within the
Or
community.
any of our
Yeah,
nonprofit stuff that we deal with already, the homeless shelter and stuff like
Yeah.
that, we can
Right.
bring them down, bring the community in with that.
so anything to get you out in the open.
On the same line is go to the schools and present the scholarships. Be visible there at the schools at the graduation, present the scholarships.
Most of us do
Most of
it.
us do, yeah.
Yeah, I'm on that committee and we hold a dinner
Yeah.
with a presentation, have a- at the lodge and have a big community thing there.
Go to the schools, kids think we're rock stars.
Oh yeah, true. The first year we did our Bikes for Books.
They love that.
Oh,
The
okay,
kids
so
did it, man.
I've got my suit on and I've got my patriotic tie on and man, I've got the apron and the
You
collar.
wearing your purple?
No, this is before that.
Okay.
As master of the lodge, and we had started the Bikes for Books program.
Is that back when they had that big front wheel and a blue one in the back?
Actually, it was, little rider wheels off the side, the
Training wheels.
Training wheels.
Okay, so my grandkids at that time were, I think, 5th grade and 3rd grade. So when they got home that night, and they live on the farm with us, when they got home, they come over to the house and they went, "Oh, Papa, you're gonna love this." They wanted to know if you were the President of the United States there. All decked out in suit, presenting the bikes to the kids and stuff. But you're right, take it to the schools. Have fun with it. Be out in front. Do your meals for your homeless. Bring them in. If you have a fundraiser, use that to buy some clothes for the homeless in the winter and different things like that. There's all kinds of things that you can do. Hold a public, I'm not going to call it a meeting, but an open house, where you have something light, hors d'oeuvres, whatever. Invite all of the elected officials in town and from the county to come in for a meet and greet with the public. Politicians love it. I guarantee they do, because I am one. So they love doing that stuff. You'll fill your lot, your dining hall with the public. You allow a little bit of talk by the politicians, but most of it's mingling and meeting and asking questions, and it's just an open forum. And guess what? It's at the lodge. You're advertising your lodge, especially if you're renting the lodge out to the public. We can gain all kinds of
Making a lot of renters.
business.
Yes.
Right. They come in, they see it, especially if it looks nice. Okay?
We do, yeah, we rent it out a lot.
Okay, so what do we have for technology? You have a website. Does everybody have a website? Number 2, are the names on that website current? God, I hate going to a website and master and officer from 2009. Hey, doesn't do me any good. Doesn't do anybody any
Don't
good.
have John Wayne up in there.
I think our website still has the word master.
Right. And so, you got to have somebody that's in charge of updating that every single year with the new officers and making the changes and getting your calendar put in place and on your website and your pictures of the activities that you're doing.
Usually it's a weekly change.
I think ours is a monthly change. Yeah. But, I mean, so that you're updating it all the time so people see things that are changing. Okay? That gets hit on all the time. It's amazing how many people hit on to take a look. Facebook. God, you can set up a Facebook account real easy. You can just make little short inserts, a picture of an event you did, and have either some brothers start a conversation or whatever. And look at how fast that thing will fill up. It's unreal. Twitter. Just so you know, my grandkids call me a dinosaur in technology because
Why is it every Grand Lodge member says that same thing?
I'm scared to death of this thing. Scared of making a mistake. I call my grandkids over from next door if I've got something that needs to be changed. They push me out of the way and they sit there and this thing's just going all over the place and all of a sudden, boom, it's just what I wanted. And I go, how'd you do it? Oh, no, just call me. They're not going to explain
They
it.
told me
What's
once,
the hashtag?
they said it was the I-10E button. I wrote it out and spelled it in.
Yeah, but can you find it? Yeah. But you can get on Twitter and you can get on blogs. You can do all kinds of stuff with technology that's out there to let the public know who you are. But it isn't just letting the public know who you are. It's letting your members know who you are. It's letting the people in your district know who you are and what you're doing and the activities that are taking place. So it's not just about the community. It's about letting all of us know what's happening. And especially for me as an elected officer, I'll look at different sites when I've got some time. And if I see something really interesting, that's where I want to go. I want to go with them. I want to see what they're doing. That's so different that it really caught my eye. Okay? There are many other things that are out there. So, why go to all this work? Why spend my lodge's money? You know what? We tried that 30 years ago. We spent $50 and we lost it, so we're never ever going to do it again. Guess what? Try.
Takes money to make money.
Well, if you never try, you never get anything done.
My personal response anytime somebody says, well, we tried that once and this happened, I said, did you go to the restaurant the second time after you had a bad meal? Well, yeah, all right, so why not try it again? Try it a little bit different.
I know, but you're gonna get that response all the time. Three?
Whenever you do an event, you need to try to do it at least 3 times. The first time, you're practicing. The second time, you're learning from the mistakes of the first time. And second time, the third time is that's what's going to show whether or not it's going to be successful. After that third time, if it isn't working so well, then maybe you need to try something else. But you need to try it at least 3 times.
You gotta keep trying. It could be circumstances the first time you try it and it didn't work, okay? Okay, the other thing you always get is, well, it didn't work and I came there and was there for 4 hours. What a waste of my time.
You were there for 4 hours. Something worked.
You know what? Just because it didn't work the first time, and just because you had brothers that came down and spent time working at it, doesn't mean that if you try it again, it won't be successful. You never know until you try. And guess what? If you're the master of the lodge, you got a lot of things you can do. Just let your imagination open up and run wild with it. And you can't do it all yourself. You've got to allocate this out to other people in the lodge. Set up committees that are going to take a look at what they're going to do. And then if they're going to work with the chamber, assign somebody, a volunteer to do it or assign somebody to do it. And same with the other activities. If you're going to be in a parade, assign a certain member. You're in charge of the parade. You're in charge of getting this thing organized. Whatever the activities are, assign it out. Get it done. If you try to do it all yourself, you'll wind up not having the time to do it. One of the last things you always hear, it's not in my comfort zone.
Boy, the masonry is.
Yeah, exactly. Okay? So what? It's not in your comfort zone. You know what the old adage was? You had to have somebody come to you and ask you 3 times to be able to get the information to join Masonry. Okay, they don't even come and ask once anymore, or very few, but we've changed our attitudes. Now, you can't go out with a petition and say, I want you to be a Mason. Here, sign this. But you can go out and say, you know, Jim, Pat,
You ever consider becoming a
well, no,
Mason? You'd make it.
I'm a Mason, and we're doing all these things. Wouldn't you be interested in doing some of those things? And Pat goes, wow, yeah. How do you get? Yeah, I'm gonna change your name. How do you get into an organization like that? We can do that. Okay, that's not unmasonic anymore. So you can do it. We are going to have to attract the men that we know to join Masonry. Why? Because you don't want everybody off the street that you have no clue who they are joining and having 3 brothers sign a petition. They don't know that person either. But if you know somebody that would be a good Mason, there is nothing wrong with you approaching them and talking to them about what we do. And see if you can't find a spark that gets them to ask a question. When you take a look at the history of Masonry, what do you have? You know, we have transformed from our forefathers. Now, our forefathers were the aristocrats. They were the important people of the community. They were the ones that had money, and you couldn't join or be asked to join unless you had a lot of money and could be active in the community with those less fortunate that needed help. So they were the money people. And the towns turned out to see who the Masons were that went to the meetings. And the Masons would then help fund those that needed it. That's how we all got started. It was doctors, lawyers, prominent politicians, and so forth. So in your lodge, think for just a minute, how many doctors do you have in your lodge? How many U.S. senators, congressmen, state elected people, county elected people, city elected people in your lodges? Lawyers, okay? How many prominent people do you have in your lodges? And why aren't we going out and getting them? We should be, but we've changed. So we have to act differently now in order to attract the good young men to come into our lodges. We've got to be visible out in the community. Most of the rest of this you can read. I'm not going to take a whole lot of time to go over it. Again, you got the same whys. You're going to get them from all of the older past masters. I had a discussion about going out and getting young brothers to come into our lodge. And I had one 50-year Mason who I highly respect as a past master. And him and I talked for 3 hours on a Sunday afternoon about it, and he said, you can't do that. You cannot go out and approach anybody to be a Mason. And after 3 hours of sitting there bantering back and forth and talking, he finally said, if you want to go do that, that's fine, you do it. I won't object to it, but I won't be involved in it. Because that's the way that I was brought into Masonry. And I cannot change. You got that word? Change.
And how's that worked out for us?
For us, good. Really good. So,
I mean, his method,
we were losing members at a pretty alarming rate. So, questions? Yes, sir.
So a couple times I've approached our officer board in the lodge about doing things like Facebook or, you know, those sorts of avenues of approach, and immediately I've been shot down with, you cannot post those symbols, you cannot say those things, you cannot do those things because of Grand Lodge. And I mean, obviously you're telling us you're promoting those ideas. Are there things we can't post other than the obvious parts of our rituals and things like that, or symbols that we can't?
They said, sure.
Nothing from the
Yeah,
stated.
we Grand Lodge do not have an issue. We have our own Grand Lodge Facebook site.
Okay.
Yeah, they do. We have a Mason Facebook site, we
Yeah.
have a
Common sense
website.
rules of no
Twitter.
stated meetings.
Yeah,
Like that.
yeah.
Sure.
There are some
Right, right.
security things
Common
that you
rules.
do not want that are those things that we hold private.
Sure.
But there's only two things that we really hold private, and that's our rituals and our degree work.
Absolutely.
Internet anyway.
So during your talk, I did a quick search on Twitter, and there's nothing about Masons on Twitter. There's 35 DMLAs. There was even a tweet about the DMLA speaker just today. So that's how far behind us adults are on this thing. You know,
Yeah.
I have like 3 Twitter accounts.
What is Twitter? No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah. So, you know, like
on my
some of the things are, you know, you can't expect some of your older members, which majority, to even know what a hashtag is.
And some of the older guys are like, why are we talking about birds?
Yeah.
And so again, that's why you assign somebody that does have their own Twitter account or that has their own Facebook account and is active on it to be active for the lodge on it.
Sounds like you know what you're doing. Approach it. Talk to your worst woman.
Jim?
Don, when Wayne Smith was Grand Master and I was chairman of the technology committee, we had this discussion about the use of square and compasses on the internet. If you treat your site as you would your lodge stationery or your business cards, you are free to use the square and compasses. That's what it's for. you are not free to use the square and compasses in a commercial way. It's the standard prohibitions, but because we've moved to this new technology, you are in essence having an electronic version of your letterhead and the rest of it. So you are free to use the square and compasses.
You can use it for events you're doing and holding and so on and so forth. I mean, you basically, you are advertising your lodge.
Now, when we did the Masonic concert in Bremerton, we were required to get permission from the Grand
Right.
Master. So those sort of events, you get permission from the Grand Master. But in a general sense, if you're putting up your website, use the square and compasses.
If it's a special event, like a parade, you're gonna ask permission to wear all of your garb in that. So, same thing, same principles apply.
What about like putting that square and compass on a bike that you're donating for Bikes for Books or something like that? Obviously, you'd have to get Grandmaster's approval on that, right?
Correct.
Somebody said they
Well,
have
there's-
stickers they put on.
You, right out here in the hall, you can buy the stickers.
They're
that you-
approved ones too.
Yeah,
They don't have
you
to
can put them
be-
on the back of your
Right.
car, you can put them on the windows, put them anywhere.
You can buy the big ones, but they will have to order the quarter-size ones
Yeah.
if you want to put those on bicycles.
Yeah, but
So
you
it-
can put the stick-on ones, and they come in a couple different sizes.
So you're telling me if I go out here to the vendor and I buy half dollar sized approved Masonic sticker, my lodge can put those on those bikes?
You
Yes.
write a letter to the Grand Secretary requesting from the Grand Master to be able to do that. Not a problem.
I don't think you have to. I think you can do that.
That's
So I just had a quick question regarding, getting the members and going after, aristocrats, people of wealth. I was just kind of curious as to, why that group is targeted, because, and my only thing with this is just because they're a doctor or, I've known people of that status that had a worse moral compass than my friend who, makes almost above poverty level and volunteers at a bunch of youth organizations who I would be more apt to recruit this gentleman rather than the doctor or the lawyer.
That's why we have to choose.
Well, right, but, I just don't know why it was specifically for people of wealth or, I think it's, because it's our internal,
But see, what I was getting
Well, I
at
understand,
is,
I understand that.
back then, it was the people in the community that were
Established.
basically giving to those
Sure.
that were less fortunate and
Right,
were needed that kind of stuff for food, clothing, and everything else. We do that ourselves now. So we really don't need to do that, but we as an organization have become common. We're not those more elite people in the community with the great big homes, and we spend a lot of money on charity. We do spend a lot of money on charity as a group, not so much as individuals. But, and I'm not saying to target those types of people, but you need to have a smattering of them in your lodge because it changes the thought concepts of what can be
Of the
done.
people that look at the law.
Street smarts can be better than book smarts.
Yeah.
Well, I would rather, I'm pretty common. I feel like I'm elite, and especially with, the work I do and also my volunteer work outside of the lodge that I do, so
Well, hey, we're all elite.
yeah, exactly.
I guarantee you, all of us in masonry are elite because of what we contribute to all these causes for those that are less fortunate. Okay? We are elite ourselves.
Charity.
I'm talking about social status.
Sure.
And it's things to talk about, things to do. As a county commissioner, there were a lot of things that I thought of and initiated in our lodge that most of the guys working at the mill never ever thought about because they never were involved or around things like that.
Sure.
It's just the circumstance, and it's not because I'm smart. I just had other
Exposure to
things.
that stuff.
Yeah,
that they-
that I was able to see.
Sure. Very good.
About the lodge I belong to down south,
was in the danger zone with the Grand Lodge, getting close to losing their charter. And the deputy said, well, I'll be willing to work with you, but you brothers have got to show me an effort. And the first thing that they did was they went out and had baseball caps with their lodge number underneath the square and compass, and we all put to be one, ask one bumper stickers on our vehicles. And with the word is, you go to the grocery store, put that hat on, and within 6 months we had 6. Oh, and we adopted a Little League team.
Yeah.
Those 3 things, and in 6 months we had candidates.
Positive growth.
Yeah.
Okay, now that I've said all this, do not forget the brothers within your lodge. Okay, you gotta have fun. So, in our lodge, we had 3 retired Navy chiefs as masters. And boy, it was cut and dry. And, you know, the meetings for somebody on the side were really, really boring. And so, you know, along comes somebody like me, and they're going, what in the world? So our lodge went dark every summer. And everybody come back in September and couldn't remember a thing about the ritual. And so everybody was stumbling through it for the first couple of months to get back on track and so forth. So I asked the brothers of the lodge to stay light all summer. And I said, here's what we're going to do. In June, which is usually the last meeting we had when we went dark, we're going to have Mexican night. And we're going to have a Mexican feast downstairs. And we're going to dress up in costume. And there's going to be prizes for first, second, and third place on these costumes. So we had one of the bigger turnouts that our lodge had. And I think there was about 30 people there. July was Hawaiian month. And if you didn't come in shorts, I had a big pair of scissors to cut your slacks off. Okay? So you were going to come in shorts no matter what. And I wanted Hawaiian shirts. And we had a contest for Hawaiian shirts. I love Hawaiian shirts anyway. Okay, so that went over really big. And again, in July, we had a big turnout. August, most lodges in our district that were light would get just a handful of brothers coming because everybody wanted to get that vacation done before school started or whatever. So I had best leg tonight. Now, these old 50-year members that their legs had never seen sun in 50 years came with shorts on. And all kinds of stuff. Skinny, bony little legs, hairy legs, all kinds of stuff. And I had awards for that night. And so the very first time, I had everybody line up. And there was like 32, if I remember right, that had shorts on showing off their legs. And I said, I think I hear the judges come in the door downstairs. Let me run down and get them. This is just before we started the meeting. So no, I went downstairs, and guess what? My granddaughter was cheerleader on the school football team. And she had gotten 4 other of her cheerleaders to come with her.
Did Grandpa win?
In costume. Oh, I didn't even place. You know? And I went up into the lodge room. I said, brothers, the judges have arrived. And I stepped aside, motioned my granddaughter in, and they came running in to do a cheer. And
saw those legs.
Screaming.
the faces on the brothers
Nice.
when they saw who was going to be the judges. Okay, so you have fun. You enjoy. You've got to get out in the community. You've got to get the community to know who you are. and be interested in what you do so that they may want to join. But you have to take care of your brothers within your lodge and the things that you do so you don't lose them at the same time you're gaining from the outside. Because it's not about just gaining members. It's not about numbers. It's about quality. We want quality men in our organization because they're going to bring the morality and everything else that we want as an organization.
Don, when you started this, you were talking about the parades and what you did up there. For those of you that are from Western Washington, familiar with Torchlight at all?
Right.
Okay. For years, there was a Masonic float in Torchlight. Once the Masonic float went away, the last 3 years, there has not been a Masonic entry in Torchlight. You're talking about 300,000 people down 4th Avenue, broadcast on Cairo to another, I don't know, I think it's another 200,000. You want to talk about getting in the public. That's the way to do it. We have a number of lodges within Puget Sound. My thought is get together, put one entry in, and get your 50, 100 guys. And maybe you section it out. So some of them are the older Masons, some of them are in the full regalia, some of them are, doing something else, and you end up with 50 or 100.
Hawaiian shirts and shorts.
In short,
Hawaiian shirts and
Okay,
shorts,
so-
everybody wants to see that.
I'll give you my business card. What lodge has the small Masonic float? Fidalgo Lodge number 77. Is in a trailer. You come with a half-ton pickup, you pick it up, you haul it away. We charge you $50 for the use of it. You bring it back.
Use it all the time.
We have people using it a lot.
The
Not
way
as much as they should, but
And
The
that
way to
little
put
thing
that
draws
together
the
is
crowd.
really to get 6 or 8 lodges together and go in. Unfortunately, I'm doing assembly for Torchlight this year. So as far as the planning goes, I can help you with it. I can't be involved day of, I'm busy. But I would be more than happy to help put some things together. If people are interested, they can call me.
take the card, give it to whomever. But those are the kinds of things we should be doing. We need to be visible, and we need to take care of our own. Anybody else have any more comments?
They will.
Yes, sir.
I got a question, and I don't take it as negatively, but why, what has caused all this lack of interest and lack of involvement over the last 20, 30 years?
Yeah, we were very quality, active men. A lot of men joined right after World War II, up into the early to mid-50s, okay? Masonry was spiking with all kinds of people joining because of what we do. And we have forgotten what it is that created us in the beginning. And we still, all of us, give money to philanthropy that we're involved in, or fundraisers, or whatever, in our concordant bodies. But as a whole, we've forgotten. And all we've done is we've gone to lodge meetings, we've taken care of business, we've paid the bills, we've had maybe a barbecue during the summer, or whatever, but we have not done a whole lot to actually attract good men. So we need to get back out and do that to spur the enthusiasm.
Well,
That
is
answer?
there anything from Grand Lodge that addresses that?
Jim, do you have something?
Well, a question on participation. I had the same remark that you did, that we started picking up World War II, and Jimmy Reed tells me that no, actually before World War II is when Freemasonry started to really take off. It was prior to World War II, just prior. And probably due to the turmoil leading up to World War II and what happened in the Depression. But I've got a quote I'd like to read. And brothers, you've probably read this at one time or another. Freemasonry's greatest problem is their lack of interest in its teachings and attendance at communication. Many plans have been devised by Masonic leaders to stimulate interest and increase attendance, but few such efforts are more than temporarily effective. The initial appeal of the ancient craft is as strong today as it has ever been. Freemasonry attracts as good men now as in the past, but in the absence of a concerted effort to teach quickly what in more leisurely age could be spread over many years, the institution often fails to hold the interest of the new brother against the many attractions. The above was written by Most Worshipful Brother Howard R. Cruz, past Grand Master, and the foreword to Carl Claudi's Volume 1 of Introduction to Freemasonry. It was written in August of 1931. It's as true today as it was then. This is not a new issue, but we have to deal with it in new ways.
Yes, sir.
I'd just like to add one perspective, and this is why I came to this particular talk, and I suggest this is probably why it's filled. This is a community involvement. So I got volunteered against my will to go deliver poinsettias to widows. And one beautiful thing about Masonry is when you're volunteered to do something, it ends up being better than what you thought it was going to be. And I talked to the old widows in our neighborhood, and what they said was back in the 70s, when Masonry was very big in Mercer Island, there was a lot of community involvement. They had a Little League team. They did dinners. Everything you just mentioned, they were doing. And somewhere in the 70s, they got older, their kids went away, and they stopped. And then we can trace our membership going down. And I honestly think, look to some of the old people or talk to the widows in your neighborhoods and say, what did the Masonry do back when it was big? They had dances, they had basketball, everything you did was huge about community. And I would really submit that actually it's our lack of community involvement that made the community say they don't want to be involved with us either. And I submit, if we take your teachings and actually go out and involve ourselves in them, we'll get paid back.
Exactly. I want to thank everybody for coming. I got the signal that we got a break to get out of here.